whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Nikki Maduro Show. I appreciate you all coming here for politics, news, nonsense, everything in between. I am here along with Kim McAllister. Chip Franklin, I put it in the comments, you guys. He normally joins us on Wednesday. He emailed me at like 5:30 this morning. He's like, I have the flu. I can't. And I'm just, obviously it's not like he has to go anywhere, but when you have the flu, you don't even want to move. So get well, Chip. We love you, and hopefully you'll be better by next week. But sometimes I've known people that have had the flu for weeks.
Oh, I hope not. I hope maybe he was vaccinated. Let's hope he was vaccinated.
He usually gets all his vaccinations. He's always on me about vaccinations. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he didn't get the flu shot. Maybe, it's not a 100% guarantee. It's just hopefully your symptoms aren't as bad. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, our thoughts and prayers, as they say, go out to Chip Franklin. Mm-hmm. Coming up on the show, though, in a little bit, I do want to kind of talk about medicine and maternity care. I was on the phone with my best friend who lives in Idaho. And we were talking about the whole IVF situation, and we were just talking, and she said something to me so flippantly, but I was stopped dead in my tracks. She's like, doctors are fleeing Idaho and other red states, obviously, because they can't practice the way they want to practice.
Yeah, they're at risk.
They're at risk. And I was kind of just doing a little more research. And in Idaho, dozens and dozens of Idaho obstetricians have stopped practicing. Now think about that. And most of them, I think it was something like more than 80%, almost 90% of obstetricians are only in like the densely populated areas of Idaho. So if you live in some of these more remote, which in Idaho there are areas, and you get pregnant, you have to travel quite a distance to get care, let alone good care, right? I mean, it's not like you have your pick of the litter and the best of obstetricians or doctors are going to some of these states because they don't want to have to deal with this nonsense that's been going on. So we'll talk about what's called maternity care deserts. The Associated Press just recently did a real deep dive into that. So we will talk about that. In the second part of the show, I am telling you, and I was telling Kim before we came on air, this is going to be a Dateline special. Remember, I think it was last month or the month before, I had brought you, it was in January, I had brought you the case of Preston Lord. And he was this teenage kid that had been killed, beaten to death, like the weekend before Halloween. And it was in this town of Gilbert, which is a small town in Arizona. My family out there knows the family, knew the kid that died. So it kind of hit close to home. And my sister-in-law always was sending me all these stories. There is an update on this story that came out yesterday, and it's blowing my mind. And it just really begs the question. I mean, we were already talking about it when this first came out, about parents concealing, not letting their kids talk, those sorts of things. But the alleged murderer of Preston Lord, what his parents did and how they were allegedly caught is insane. And so we're going to have Billie Tarascio. She's an attorney out in Arizona. She's been doing updates on this. She had come on with us last time. And so she'll be back on in the second part of the show to bring us up to speed. But this story is absolutely insane. Now, Kim, I told you that Chip wasn't on today, and you've been dealing with your own cold. You tested yesterday. It's not COVID. How are you feeling today? Besides being sexy voiced,
it probably sounds worse than it is. But also a little low energy, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I had this thing last night. This is my night. We had the best dinner. My husband is a really, really good cook.
We love the cooking descriptions, David. You're an amazing cook.
So he makes beef stew.
Oh, I love beef stew.
And he makes these mashed potatoes to go with it. The mashed potatoes that he makes are the food that I want on my deathbed.
Right.
Like if I were to be on death row, he would have to bring it to prison. They're
Does he
so
use
good.
a potato ricer when he makes his mashed potatoes?
He uses a masher, but not a ricer.
Okay, I just wonder. I'm not a big. I don't make mashed potatoes regularly, so I'm always looking for tips. But okay, go ahead.
They're so good, so good. So good.
Yeah.
And then he also loves to bake, so he bakes this loaf of sourdough bread,
God.
and everything's fresh and good. And
Yeah, and
warm
it smells so good in that house. I bet.
Also, he uses every pan in the kitchen, and there's not a surface of kitchen counter that isn't messy.
Right.
And
so he's
usually,
not a clean as he cooks kind of guy.
no, he's not.
Okay.
And usually that's fine. It's like, I've just eaten the most amazing dinner.
Oh,
No
God,
worries,
it sounds
I'll
so
clean up.
good. Yeah, of course.
So last night, I'm looking at the cleanup. Everyone's gone to bed. I'm looking at the cleanup. And also, right before everyone had gone to bed, Jacob had barfed.
Oh, God. Oh, that's right, because other people in your house are sick.
Jacob barfed, and he was on the couch in the family room, and he got on the carpet and on a blanket and on a couple of couch pillows. So I'm unzipping the couch pillow covers.
Right,
and I'm,
Oh, God.
So I
That's
just
awful.
clean
I'm
up the
sorry.
puke, and I clean up the everything, and then I sit down in the chair, and I'm like, take a break.
Right.
Then I get up, and then I clean up the first section of kitchen, and then I take a break.
Yeah, because you have the deal in your house that if he cooks, you clean, kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's fair.
that's
Okay.
that's our
That's
kind
fair.
of how
Yeah, that's fair.
the chips have fallen, and that's
you
great.
get a delicious dinner, but he's not going to cook.
No
clean it.
problem.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like you're sick when you have to clean in shifts.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of cleaning last night.
Yeah. And it's not like you could leave it until you feel better, because a meal like that, you don't want. It's even worse if you leave it, because then it's just stuck on and it's just gross and it smells. Like, I love it when I make a fabulous dinner and then and you can still, it smells in the kitchen, but if you don't clean it the next morning, it smells like a trash can. You have to clean it. So it sounds delicious. Was it worth the clean?
Not last night, and it was an amazing dinner, but
it sounds amazing
when you're sick and you're like looking at it and you're thinking, honestly, I would have rather had nothing for dinner.
Oh, but really, I'll take your portion though.
I know, and it was an amazing dinner too.
Yeah,
he's a really good cook, but it was like, oh, yeah, really, you can't clean, you can't have it clean, dude.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, I feel like that's a meal, stew and fresh bread, that I would want when I wasn't feeling well. Like, I want to be warm with something cozy and all those sorts of things. But again, could also open a can of soup, dumped it, heated it up, been like, there you go. Now you don't have anything else to clean. But good job, David. That's a good meal.
When you're sick, it's takeout.
Yeah.
Like, tonight's the night where you order something. And just leave me alone, right? Yeah.
That's so funny you mentioned takeout, because I was literally on the phone with my husband before I started the show. And, we're pricing out life insurance and trying to do all the adulting things that you need to do. And, it costs money, it goes into the budget type of thing. And pho, Natalie, absolutely. Yeah. And you have to send me your favorite pho place, because I know we live in the same area and I wonder if it's the same as mine. But I was telling him, as we're pricing things out, he's like, well, do we have it in the budget? And I always say the same thing to him. I'm like, we could have so many things in the budget if we stopped eating out so much. You know what I mean?
Totally true.
If we would make food at home more than we ate out, and I would say it's almost, I mean, we eat at home way more, but if you count breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but we love eating out. We love getting takeout. We love going out. And the thing that bothers me is then he says, he's like, but everyone gets bored with the meals that we make. And by we, he means me, even though he does cook. You know what I mean? It's like, I buy the groceries, so I'm buying the same food. I'm like, there's only so many things that exist in this world that is, that I'm going to spend time creating. I'm not like David, where I have, this chef's mind. It's chicken, steak, fish, like beef, we have to, and then my kids are picky ass eaters, right? So I've been wanting to make what's called Marry Me Chicken. I have this recipe. I've been saving it in my thing.
Name.
It's chicken with, this one has orzo, but you can use pasta. It has sun-dried tomatoes and heavy cream. I've been wanting to make this meal. The problem is this is a meal where you're going to have a big old pot full of it, right? So either I invite people over because I know my kids are going to look at it and be like, is there cheese in it? And I'd be like, no, there's heavy cream in it, right? I mean, there's Parmesan, but I wouldn't tell them that. And it's just one of those things where I can have a bunch of recipes I want to make, but I also want it to be eaten. It's expensive to make a lot of food. And so I got to come up with, and you guys know I like to cook. I have recipes. But when I'm done with this show and then defrosting things, I like to go to the grocery store sometimes and just figure out what appeals to me. So, but maybe I'll make the Marry Me chicken. Yes, Amy, it keeps showing up in my feed. Is it in your? Does it have orzo in yours? Because I've been wanting to make that. I've been wanting to make mushroom raviolis with a nice like brown butter sauce. My kids will never eat it. No. My kids would never eat it. So yes, I have ideas. I'm not a restaurant. I'm not making 2 different dinners. I could place it before them. They might take a bite and then that's it. Then they're going to go eat whatever else they want to eat. And it's difficult. So I wish I had a day. I mean, honestly, James is an amazing cook. He just works so much. I'm not going to ask him to make a gigantic dinner. And that's funny, Phineas, our conversation yesterday. More cereal for dinner.
Loops for dinner. I have to thank Susan. You're so nice. I really appreciate you.
Right.
I got a chef in-house, but I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, exactly. If David is does he have his own sourdough starter that he makes his sourdough with?
Yeah, he does.
Oh my God. You are spoiled, my friend. Even if you have to do it in shifts, you're gonna have to clean that pot.
People call, like our family and friends call and say, can you make some bread? Could you bring some bread by?
Oh, yeah. God, I wish I lived closer to you. That's awesome. Yeah. Natalie says, I have an amazing recipe for chicken and dumplings with diced andouille stuffed dumplings. Okay, everybody knows my email address, thenikkimadoroshow@gmail.com. thenikkimadoroshow@gmail.com. Send me recipes. You guys know that I love my Friday food segments. And so, but okay, don't make them extremely difficult. Okay, like I'll try, but for a Friday food segment on a Thursday night, work with me, people. Okay, work with me. I'm a busy mom. So, but yeah, if you have any recipes, now I want pho.
I know.
I'll be thinking about all the way through. I love pho. I love soup.
There's a place called Sonoma Pho, and it's really good. Really good.
Yeah, Natalie, tell me what place I live in San Jose. We have Vietnamese food and options through the roof, and so many pho places. But the funny thing about pho is people are loyal to their pho place. So if you go to a place and like, no, have you been to pho number 6? Right. And they have the best broth and blah, blah, blah. And yeah. I will figure it out. I'll post it on my social media if I find that Marry Me chicken recipe, by the way.
So good.
Chicken. I love dumplings. Now I'm assuming. Okay, so when you guys say dumplings, are you talking about like the drop dumplings that are like bread? Or are you talking about dumplings like Asian dumplings that meat inside? Because I'm assuming, John, curry chicken inside a dumpling wrapper, right? That's what you're talking about?
Whatever it is, it sounds good. I love a man who can cook.
Absolutely. Lori says, Nikki, your kids are old enough to cook for themselves. Make what you want, and hubby. And if kids won't eat, let them. That's exactly the reality of my life. But again, I want my children like. Here's the thing. I was an extremely picky eater growing up. And so it's not like I respect, but I understand picky eating. Okay. I literally was an adult and well into adulthood after 18 until I regularly started eating vegetables. Beyond like corn and broccoli, right? Like trying new vegetables well into adulthood. So I get it. Okay. I get it. But I don't want my kids eating pizza and goldfish all of the time. Like we have those things for like afternoon snacks and stuff, but at dinner it's like I need to feel good about something that I put into your body. And if I'm making food, it's hard. People, you guys know, some of you that's just you or just you and your spouse or partner or whatever, it's hard to just cook for 2 people. I'm not a huge leftover fan. I mean, some things I love leftovers, but most of the time it's like, I don't want to eat that again, especially 2 days in a row. So I don't want to waste food.
No, this is not a restaurant. We're all eating together as a family.
Exactly. I want to sit down together. I want you to take a bite. You have to take a couple of bites. My kids are pretty good with that. Sandy says you need to try a place in San Pedro Square called Serious Dumpling. You guys are killing me. I was just talking about the fact that I want to cook more. And you guys are all like, go out and eat this place. Now it's on my list. Serious. I love dumplings. You guys email me though these recommendations because I'm not going to remember a lot. Kamta Ton in San Jose. Yummy pho. Okay. I was also well into adulthood before the whole pho thing took on with me. I thought it was fucking gross. Okay. Like I was like, no, I'm not putting raw meat because I do the beef or whatever when I do get pho. I'm not putting raw meat into broth and then drinking it. I thought that was the most disgusting thing in the world. But once you go pho, you never go back.
This is interesting.
I'm telling you. I've heard of that place and I've been wanting to check it out. They put like a short rib bone in there. I think did we talk about it on this show?
No.
They put they have a rib in it, brisket, but like they do the whole barbecue brisket and then put that in the pho.
Oh wow.
Yes, it's like Texas barbecue and pho. I have not tried it yet. It is on my list.
So someone, I think it was Ricky, mentioned is asked if there's a link, like we need a recipe link.
Yes.
We need a recipe link. We need a Nikki Medora restaurant recommendation link.
You know what? I'll put it on my link tree. I'll put it in my link tree. I'll do that because that's the easiest thing. And the link tree is always in my favorite things. I will put it there. My favorite things includes my favorite recipes. I will put that. Let me make a note of the things I do after my show.
Where we can all, you know, everybody here can share recipes and share restaurants.
Done. And if you guys share it with me, I'll put it in there and we could do that. Great idea. Great idea. Vilma says, I had a rule with my kids. They had to try the food at least once. I wanted to do this so they could explore their own taste and not just say it didn't look good to them. Yes, they were still picky eaters. Same. There's so many infamous stories, especially of my daughter. There was one, it was a Valentine's Day. James made this fabulous dinner. I think I had lobster and steak. I mean, it was just fabulous and fancy. And I think he had made broccoli with cheese on it. And this was when Marley was little and we were still trying to get her to eat cheese. She then projectiled across the dinner table off the littlest bite ever. I mean, it was so ridiculous. Dramatic, to say the least. Flo, I know. I love talking about food. It is literally one of my favorite things to talk about is food. It's awesome. And Natalie, if you want to make chicken and dumplings and drop it off, I know we're in the same neighborhood. I feel like I could yell outside my door, Natalie. I feel like we're that close possibly to each other. But yeah, anybody wants to drop food off, I'm down to eat.
I have one of these, Ricky O'Bear. I have Jacob.
Yeah. My best friend's kids are like this.
He's the vacuum cleaner. Whatever you don't want, he'll eat it.
Yeah.
He'll eat it, and then and he'll try anything. And he has a palate that's like not a kid's palate. It's like he likes oysters and he likes seafood. Like he's
expensive tastes.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
And he's the size of an adult, so now he eats off the adult menu too.
Yeah, exactly. And now,
He's 10.
and that's the thing. Like I always joke that, my husband and I are not tall people. We're breeding short people. I am very short. And on one hand, it's like, would we like to be a little bit taller? Maybe. I'm content with myself. On the other hand, definitely cheaper on the food tip. You know what I mean? Like we don't need to eat a lot of things. Lori, I love this comment. My own cooking has ruined eating out most places for me. My food is exactly the way I like it, and I'm a good cook. Fancy French, Northern Italian, Asian food, only eat out now. I'm picky with Italian food because I make, in my opinion, my favorite spaghetti sauce, right? I like my sauce. It's not too friggin' sweet. Every time I go, I would be hard pressed to find red spaghetti sauce, marinara, bolognese, whatever, that's not too sweet at a restaurant. I feel like they add too much sugar to it. And I don't add sugar to my sauce. So when I have a restaurant sauce, I'm like, it's too freaking sweet. And sometimes I want it. Sometimes I want to go have raviolis with a red sauce. But most of the time it's like, nah, I'll have something that's just really time intensive. Maybe a lasagna, but even then the sauce is too sweet. It's just hard when you have a specific style of food that you like, that you cook, to go out anywhere else. So all right, I'm going to do the link tree. I'll set up a recipe link. If you guys have favorite recipes, David's been asked for his bread recipe, Kim. So maybe if he's willing to hand it over. But again, guys, he has his own sourdough starter. So I would say you'd have to start there and then build. So, and if you have your own sourdough starter, I would say that you're probably a pretty good cook. I don't have one of
he's
those.
a well baker. He started baking during the pandemic.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me that. And that's
And
amazing. But he was
now
always a
when
good cook, right?
Oh yeah, always a good cook.
Mhm.
I told Juliet, you have to marry a guy that's a good cook, unless you're because he teaches the kids how to cook. Thank God they don't
Thank
not gonna end
God.
up like me, like not knowing anything in the kitchen, except how to clean. A great cleaner.
There you go. Every house needs one. So there you go.
This is how we do. But yeah, so I go, if your dad teaches you how to cook, that's great. But if not, and you find yourself not knowing what to do, this is what happens. You marry a guy who can cook.
There you go. And you'll eat well for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
The rest of your life. All right. Let me do a couple of political headlines before we do Kim's news headlines. The Michigan primary, of course, was yesterday. No surprise, obviously. Biden and Trump won. But Dean Phillips, who's on my S list since that fake robocall where he paid somebody to fake Biden's voice to tell people not to vote. I have no respect for this guy anymore. But he is now an even longer shot. He finished 4th, losing not just to Biden, but also to a write-in campaign and to Marianne Williamson. So I would say there's not a shot in HE double hockey sticks that he's going to do it. The final results show Biden winning about 81% of voters in the Democratic primary. The uncommitted write-in campaign from voters came in second, followed by Williamson, and then, of course, Dean Phillips. Trump won. Obviously, Nikki Haley came in second. Let's see. Now, I didn't see, I'm assuming Nikki Haley's going to go to Super Tuesday at the very, very least. I do not foresee her dropping out anytime soon. There's no announcement of anything like that. So we'll see. Well, next Tuesday is Super Tuesday. I'm correct about that, right? I'm correct about that. It's next Tuesday. Okay.
That's correct.
What date is it? Okay. House Speaker Mike Johnson getting criticized by none other than, of course, Josh Hawley. You'll remember Josh Hawley. He was the one on January 6th that showed his fist and then it was running away like a scared child when the insurrectionists entered the Capitol. That was Hawley. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said yesterday he was optimistic that Congress would keep the government open, but earlier Senator Josh Hawley blamed the leadership for not getting things done a month ago. He does say it's both sides, though. Hawley's getting criticized, though, because Dana Bash from CNN was saying it's so funny that Senator Hawley's trying to sound frustrated, but it's hard for him to hide how much he's enjoying throwing the grenades from the sidelines on the leadership of both parties. And I love that she said that because it's such a Republican thing to do, right? It's such a Republican thing to do, to criticize. And then when you have to actually do something, i.e. keep the freaking government open, you're just criticizing everybody. I did want to play this clip, though. Obviously, with Trump's legal problems continuing to mount, with trials set to start very shortly, it behooves the GOP to try to keep some sort of attention on the Biden crime family, which is turning out to be a big goose egg. It just is. It just is. Look at this exchange, though, on Fox and Friends, especially when, what is that? I think it's Steve Doocy. Steve Doocy is saying what everyone that within their right mind knows. There's just, again, the problem with Republicans. You can say whatever you want, but you actually have to have evidence. You can't just point to things like, obviously there's a crime happening there. Okay, what's the evidence of that? Just we feel like it. Listen to this exchange, because apparently it got pretty heated. Oh, don't start the friggin' ad again.
Rusty
Ad
Hicks
at all.
is the
Okay,
only
well, that thing just come up real quickly. But they were trying to, again, keep this whole idea that because Biden is the father of Hunter Biden, then there must be some sort of crime happening. And that's just not the case. Okay, the ad ended. Let me show you this exchange, because, again, this is Fox and Friends.
Inquiry. And on Capitol Hill, a lot of Republican lawmakers say they have seen zero evidence of high crimes and misdemeanors. And right now, the Republicans do not have enough votes to impeach. And after dozens of interviews and over 100,000 documents released to the committees, the Republicans have yet to produce any direct evidence of misconduct by Joe Biden.
But man, does this look absolutely terrible. 150 suspicious activity reports around them. Joe Biden was in on meetings with every major deal regarding Hunter Biden. He said, my dad is sitting next to me while talking to a Chinese CFC official.
Okay. One, I'd love to see video of all of this happening. Hunter Biden saying something. And two, Trump's family is the poster child of nepotism. Trump's doing it again with Laura Trump making her the head of the RNC or whatever. I mean, saying that your dad is vice president is not a crime.
Many phone calls. There's a $200,000 check that was paid to Biden. Then you've got inexperienced Hunter Biden, who admitted that to ABC in an interview.
Not a crime.
He said, "Yeah, I don't really have any experience in this."
Neither did any of the Trump kids.
Well, and the other thing was he was trying to get on the board of this Chinese company when it wasn't clear that he was running for president.
Not a
when
crime.
He was a former vice president at the time. And why are you emailing over a pseudo address if you don't want people to know, if you don't mind people knowing what you do or do not know about your son's business? And when he looked Peter in the eye and said, I know nothing about my son's overseas business dealings, he was flat out lying.
And then a few weeks later, here's the picture of him on the golf course with the business partner.
Devin Archer.
Correct.
Maybe he thought he was the caddy.
I think there is evidence.
That's not evidence.
Ainsley,
Go to court.
Are many lawmakers who say they've seen zero evidence of high.
But what we just said.
Say that they have.
But to impeach somebody, you need direct evidence of misconduct by Joe Biden. Look, Hunter Biden, it sure looks like he traded on his name.
There you go.
And he's going to have plenty of time
with his
today.
dad, the role his dad has played is key.
We're going to have plenty of time, the Republicans are, to ask him a million questions. It will be interesting to hear what he has to say. But right now, according to Republicans, there's
What Republicans?
Some Republicans say they've got the goods on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, but a number of Republicans who I've spoken to on Capitol Hill say there's no direct evidence of misconduct by the current president.
They're just so corrupt.
This is so unbelievable.
I mean, they could be as outraged as they want to on their show. Go to court and present evidence. That is always the problem with these Trump supporters. It's like, I feel it in my bones. My sink told me yesterday. That's not going to hold up in court, people. You have to have evidence, like literal evidence. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
It's like the more times, how many times they said corrupt?
I know.
In that piece. It's like you can't just will it into corruption.
Exactly. It's
you can't
crazy.
just say it's corrupt, it's corrupt, it's corrupt. Because you say it is?
Right. Exactly.
Because
exactly.
you want to believe someone's corrupt, so you're going to come up with all these reasons why?
Yeah, that's basically what they're doing. They're saying this, and we're going to make it happen.
Counts? How about 94 criminal counts against
Thank
someone?
You. Thank you.
Where there's actual evidence presented.
You.
Where so far, almost every case being tried is coming down for the state of New York or the plaintiff, E. Jean Carroll.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Donald says they think because Trump's a dumpster fire all by himself, then Biden must be on fire too. And it's not. And exactly, Phineas, if you repeat a lie enough, it becomes the true mentality. That's these people. It doesn't matter that there's no evidence. It doesn't matter to them. And it blows their mind that all of these cases are against Trump. They're like, there's no evidence. There is evidence, and they're going to court with it. And that's the difference. That is the difference. Mitch McConnell just coming through, the longest serving Senate leader in history, will step down in November.
Oh, good.
I mean,
sayonara.
I don't, he's not a Trumper anymore. I do think that he has been responsible for so much of the political problems, discourse in this country. Mitch McConnell, the obstructionist, would not pass anything from President Obama. He also has health problems. I mean, if you remember, he freezed, he glitched. People are talking to him and he's not there. He turned 82 last week. He was set to announce his decision today in the well of the Senate. He said in prepared remarks obtained by the Associated Press, one of life's most underappreciated talents is to know when it's time to move on to life's next chapter. So I stand before you today to say this will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate. Now, I will say this. Sometimes, the devil who is going to do it next? Who wants that job?
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, do we go totally MAGA? If Trump doesn't win in November, right? Then I think maybe we can have someone sane. If he wins, God forbid, I have no idea who they're going to have as their leader. And that's kind of frightening. I mean, can we get worse than Mitch McConnell? I don't know. But yeah, so Mitch McConnell was in the Senate and started his Senate career in 1985 and always has had his sights on being the party's leader. He said he always wanted to run for president. What set him apart was that so many other Senate leaders wanted to run for president, but McConnell said he wanted to run the Senate. Others wanted to run for president. He wanted to run from Senate. I think I'm saying that correctly. He most recently beat back a challenge led by Senator Rick Scott of Florida last November. A lot of people have been calling for him to step down, not just because of his health, but because of the fact that I don't think people thought he was MAGA enough, in all honesty. Yeah, held up Supreme Court nominations, changed the whole rules about when you could actually interview, talk to people for the nomination. I'm so glad he's gone. Believe me, I'm so glad he's gone. I am a bit concerned about who is going to take his place. He didn't die, Spencer, but he did announce today that he is stepping down. So that's late breaking news today. Another thing that's happening in the Supreme Court, argument started today on the bump stock ban. You'll remember that turns like a semi-automatic weapon into like a full machine gun or some like it lets you just hold down the trigger and just shoot all these friggin' bullets. It was used in Texas. And not in Texas, in Las Vegas for that mass shooting at the concert. That was one of the weapons used. This is a Trump era bump stock ban that is now before the U.S. Supreme Court. Apparently, Michael Cargill, who's a U.S. Army veteran and the owner of a gun store in Austin, Texas, challenged the rule after he was forced to surrender 2 bump stocks. This is one of 2 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court in terms of involving gun restrictions. Cargill is represented by the New Civil Liberties Alliance. He wants to recover his bump stock devices that were taken away from him. I don't understand why we need to do this. I don't understand why people need to have a weapon modified in order to shoot even more bullets. I don't know what in the Second Amendment says that is needed. Ridiculous. So we will see. Again, conservative courts, gun violence, mass shootings, epidemic proportions in the United States, but I wouldn't think that there'd be any common sense with this stupid Supreme Court. So we could have these back on the streets. But in the day and age of, the ghost guns where you can kind of create with 3D printers your own gun parts, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if people just create their own anyway. So it's sick. This country is sick when it comes to guns and gun violence. I don't give a crap what you say. I'm speaking that as someone who's married to a gun owner, who's married into a family that owns guns, whose own family owns guns. I don't personally own guns. I don't have a gun. I can't gun permit or whatever. I'm not one of those, but gun violence in this country is just insane. All right, let's do some headlines with Kim. And then I do want to talk about maternity care deserts and how frightening that is. And again, how it's not as if California is immune necessarily to losing major hospitals in certain areas or anything like that. But I will say, I'd much rather live here than in a state like Idaho.
God,
all right.
Yes.
To show your support. You guys, the super chat is also live. That's a way that we can raise money for the show to keep this show going. Of course, the number one ways is PayPal and our Patreon. If you go to theNikkiMadoroshow.com, our Patreon link is there. And if you sign up to be a Patreon subscriber, you're an official Madorable. And we appreciate everybody that can not only donate for the first time, but if you could donate a little bit more, it's one time a month. We talk about eating out. If you'd like to see us here every single day, please consider donating to the show. We are 100% crowdfunded. If you like PayPal, just go to paypal.com, hit send, and there is the email address to send it to, the Nikki Maduro Show at gmail.com. All right, let's do some headlines, and then we'll talk about maternity care deserts next.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Maduro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
This one might be a little rough, you guys, so if I have to cough, I'll mute it. If there's a weird pause or silence,
all right,
that's why.
We got you covered.
You just mentioned this, but here we go. Yep, Mitch McConnell announcing plans to step down as Senate Minority Leader. That will happen in November. So he's a goner. We'll see how this affects and who steps up to replace him. Yeah.
Sad Turtle. What was his nickname? He was called like Sad Turtle. But he's also, and again, if we're talking about age and health, he's had several public health challenges. So I think it's really, really good for him to step down right now.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say I'm sorry to see him go, but
yeah,
hey.
I'm not. Yeah. Bye, Mitch. Yeah. Bye.
Hunter Biden is testifying behind closed doors in the Republican-led impeachment inquiry of his father, President Biden. Republicans are searching for evidence that Hunter Biden used his time, or that President Biden used his time as vice president to benefit his family financially. Hunter's overseas business dealings have come under scrutiny in this investigation, but the investigation suffered a setback after the indictment of an ex-FBI informant accused of making up information. That means they got nothing. With the Michigan primaries in the rearview mirror, Super Tuesday is the next date circled on the race for the White House. Super Tuesday coming up very fast, faster than we know. And as a matter of fact, in many areas, the polls are already open. You can drop your ballot off. I was reading a story on Politico last night that so far only 8% of ballots have been turned in, which is a lot less than normal at this point.
Oh, okay.
So they're worried about in an important election that the turnout could be low.
Well, again, primaries often have low voter turnout, but it is a presidential year, so you would think that would draw more people. I am an absentee ballot voter, but I turn my ballot in person. So I honestly, when I say that to people, a lot of people say the same thing. So let's keep our fingers crossed that more people turn out.
Well, President Biden and former President Trump both won their party's primaries in Michigan easily yesterday. While Trump has essentially secured the GOP nomination, Haley is still vowing to stay in the race, arguing both Trump and President Biden are unpopular among most Americans. Voters in 15 states and the U.S. territory will head to the polls on March 5th to cast their ballots for who they'd like to be the Democratic and Republican presidential nominees. It was a significant yesterday, though, that a lot of young voters, Arab American Democrats, and progressives were taking part in this, don't vote for Biden, where they just voted an uncommitted vote, which kind of sends a message because he needs support from those people in order to win. And meanwhile, Trump did not win by the margin that he could have. A lot of people came out to vote for someone else. So while he won, he didn't win like he should have won.
I'm going to say this. I think that it's more concerning for Trump than Biden. I think that everyone knew that this was kind of a protest vote because they knew that Biden was obviously going to win the nomination in their state or whatever, win the primary. And so it's like kind of sending a message to Biden, like, hey, we need you to do something about this. And as we mentioned yesterday, Biden is hoping that some sort of ceasefire will be called by this end of this weekend. So we'll see. But again, I'm not concerned about Biden. Trump should be concerned. Trump should be very much concerned.
I don't know if you've seen this footage. This is what's happening in Texas.
Ooh, what is going on?
It reminds me a lot of what's going on in California.
Yeah.
They have massive, massive wildfires going on in Texas. I just was reading that flames are burning through a land that's the size of about 150 football fields a minute.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Where is this in Texas? Does it say?
This is, I don't have.
Hold on, let me look it up too.
Town. Texas Panhandle. Yeah.
Okay.
This fire is completely uncontained. The Texas A&M Forest Service says it's now the second largest wildfire in the state's history.
Wow.
This is called the Smokehouse Creek Fire. It's burned 500,000 acres since Monday afternoon. I mean, this fire is going nuts. So,
it says the town of Canadian, which is a community of 2,200 people northeast of Amarillo. I think that's not Amarillo. Amarillo near the Oklahoma state line. So if you could think about it that way. Wow, that's no good.
No, it is no good. And you know what? I feel for them as a person in fire zone country up here in the North Bay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, ooh.
That's crazy.
That's some scary stuff. That was footage of firefighters driving through what looks to be fire burning on both sides of the roadway. That was scary.
That is scary. Well, even though, it's not like I hate Texans. I just like their politics, but that's
not
really
a fan
sad.
of Texas, but I don't want to see it burn either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Plus, Tony lives there from San Antonio. So,
I don't think it's anywhere close to that.
No,
though.
not close to that, but still. Pope Francis back at the Vatican after making a trip to the hospital.
Oh.
The 87-year-old Pope skipped a reading at his general audience at the Vatican, apologizing to those in attendance. The Vatican said Pope Francis had some diagnostic tests done, but they're not commenting on his condition or what may be wrong.
Oh, geez, okay.
Speaking of a little trip to the hospital, President Biden is undergoing his annual physical exam at Walter Reed today. The White House is expected to publicly release a written summary of his exam later in the day. This comes as the president faces questions, of course, about his age, his ability to serve a second term. I don't know. He looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's older.
He's not a young man, but
he's with it, people. Stop with the narrative. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely dumb.
The son of Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert,
I heard,
is facing some legal trouble. I mean, we don't want to see anybody,
No, we do. Go ahead. No,
trouble.
we can totally have a little.
His name is
fun.
Tyler Boebert, and he was arrested yesterday. He's facing 22 different charges.
Ooh.
He's 18 years old.
So an adult. There you go.
He's charged with criminal possession of a financial device. I don't know what that means. A financial device.
Breaking into cars, maybe, and trying to steal. Well, because I heard that he was trying to steal credit cards and IDs and stuff like that.
Oh, maybe like a skimmer or something.
Yeah, so maybe it was something like that.
Criminal auto trespass with intent to commit crime and contributing to the delinquency of a minor, among others. So he must have been with some younger people
you're
as well.
18, you have 17-year-old friends or whatever, so... that's interesting. It was funny. I was talking to my friend again from Idaho, and her daughter is going to be turning 18 in a couple months. And we were just talking about all the things that are going to change, whether, she's going to move out on her own. And she's like, and if she gets in trouble, she's on her own because I'm going to leave her ass in jail if she ever gets in trouble and da-da-da-da-da. Apparently, Tyler Boebert had to spend the night in jail as well. So it wasn't like his Congresswoman mom was bailing him out, which is good. I mean, you commit the crime, sit your ass in jail. I completely agree with that.
I mean, yeah, I do too. And, we report it because it's her son.
Yeah.
And she's just has such an ugly character.
Yes.
That want, that's like, you want to celebrate that. But on the other hand, it's like, that's that's her son. I feel like, I feel bad.
I kind of do, but
I don't know why I feel bad.
I mean, I think it's the mother in us, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you always think of your own kids and what you would do if you were in that situation. Yeah. On the other hand, it couldn't have happened to a worse person. Like,
true.
And obviously all of your, guns first, we're so whatever, high and mighty isn't working for your own child. So why don't you stop, fiddling guys inside plays and focus on your own family? How about you just leave Congress? How about that? Just leave Congress.
Yeah. You're out. Go away.
Go away. Exactly.
John Fogerty's appearance at a music festival in Australia is being canceled, which is news to him, actually. The Creedence Clearwater Revival founder said in a statement he was blindsided by organizers of the Country Fest Queensland, who announced this week that Fogerty would not appear due to unforeseen circumstances. Fogerty's statement said he was not the reason for the unforeseen circumstances. He later posted a video on Instagram letting fans know he'd come to Australia soon and perform See at CCR's Bad Moon Rising. The festival organizers didn't provide any details on why Fogerty was removed from the lineup. That schedule is the festival is scheduled for the end of March. That's weird. Don't you think that they just there must be some weird behind the scenes
exactly
fight. Something happening that's strange.
Bad Moon Rising.
Yeah. Another situation is going on with I guess there's a lawsuit or some type of thing happening with Don Henley.
Yeah, I was reading something about that, and the lyrics to a song or something like that. Is that what he was saying?
He's calling a line of questioning about an alleged incident involving a teenage girl more than 40 years ago, a sideshow in a trial against 3 men accused of trying to sell a stolen collection of lyrics by the Eagles. The 100-page collection includes handwritten lyrics from the Hotel California album. It's worth more than $1 million. Ed Kaczynski, Glenn Horowitz, and ex-Rock and Roll Hall of Fame curator Craig Inicardi are charged with first-degree criminal possession and fourth-degree conspiracy. Horowitz is also charged with hindering prosecution and attempted criminal prosecution of stolen property. Henley became notably frustrated in court Tuesday after questions about an alleged drug-related incident in 1980 involving a 16-year-old girl. He wasn't charged with any sexual crimes and stated in court again he did not have relations with the girl. Henley is expected to be back on the witness stand today in a Manhattan courtroom. Here's a case against people that are accused of stealing the song lyrics, and they're dragging up stuff from the past, which is, I can see why he'd be frustrated about that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, especially in this day and age, you know what I mean, where everything is online and people are trying to really keep hold of their intellectual property or their stuff. I mean, we're going to see more cases like this.
Last, for music news, Oasis frontman Liam Gallagher is calling the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a load of bullocks.
Oh, he's always been kind of outspoken kind of guy. Okay.
He's actually one of this year's nominees for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, along with Ozzy Osbourne, Foreigner, and other famous rockers. The nominees also include Mariah Carey, hip-hop group Eric B. and Rakim, A Tribe Called Quest, which triggered the outspoken Oasis singer. In recent interviews, Gallagher said, "As much as I love Mariah Carey and all that, it's like putting me in the Rap Hall of Fame." He continued saying, "I've done more for rock and roll than half of those clowns." Rock Hall class of 24 will be announced in late April. Can you imagine how little class to come out and start speaking against the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because you don't like your fellow nominees?
Yeah, like, who are you? Like, who cares? I mean,
he's a baby. You're right.
He always has been. And I like Oasis. But it's just like, shut up. Yeah, I think it's just part of his personality. I really do. He can't help himself, but
he doesn't like being included with rap artists. He doesn't like being included with Mariah Carey.
No.
Why don't you just be quiet and take the accolades and the honor?
Or don't go. Don't go if you don't want it then. You know what I mean?
What happened to being gracious?
He's never been gracious, Kim. He's never been that kind of guy.
What happened to being like, I'm so excited to be nominated, especially with my fellow nominees who, are such great musical artists in their own right. You always say something nice. It's the problem I had after the Super Bowl. When the Kansas City Chiefs got up on the stage and everyone's giving their speech, you know what they missed this year? We have to thank the 49ers. They were a great team. They really provided the challenge.
Oh, real? I didn't watch. I went to bed.
They never said a word. It was like, "We're awesome," and the yelling and the screaming and the singing.
Right.
And there was never any of the good sportsmanship, the traditional, reaching out for
shaking
the olive
hand,
branch.
good game, right. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It goes a long ways with not only, goodwill toward other fans in the stadium, and you want all the kids that are watching their sports heroes to see good sportsmanship in action there, and they didn't do it.
I'll forgive them, even though my team lost. I'll forgive them only because although they should know better. They've been on that freaking stage so freaking much.
That's right.
I guess, if you get kind of caught up in the moment or whatever, but still, I agree with you. It's just classy. And sometimes I feel like classiness isn't appreciated enough anymore, right? It's like you got to be the hustle and you got to be smart and but like, what about just being classy and a good loser, right? Like, or a good winner. I had to teach my son that when he was really little. Oh my God, if he won the game, he would rub it in your face so much. And this is when he was little. And I'd be like, look, it's just as being like a good loser is important. So is being a good winner. You say good game, better luck next time, something like that. You don't just be like in your face, like just don't do that to people because then nobody wants to play with you anymore. And that's not fun.
Apparently I've brought back PTSD. I'm sorry, Louise.
Right.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, it is what it is. Right.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Yeah.
You want one more story?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's end with death.
Oh, death and destruction. All right.
End with death. There's this family suing Walt Disney World in Florida over a woman's deadly allergic reaction. It's a wrongful death lawsuit claiming the victim, who was also a doctor, ate at Raglan Road Irish Pub at Disney Springs right before she died last October. The restaurant reportedly reassured this woman that her food could be made to accommodate her severe dairy and nut allergy.
No.
A medical examiner report shows this victim died from an allergic reaction. So now the family is asking for at least $50,000 in damages from that company.
Well, I think that they should get the money because if you say something and you're assured, then obviously that's misinformation that led to somebody's death. On the other hand, there is no other hand. They should pay the woman, absolutely, or her family or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what it's like to have an allergy. I can only imagine how difficult it is to live life when you have a severe allergy to very common things like dairy and nuts and things like that. But if my life was on the line from something like that, I'd be bringing my own food. I would do something. You know what I mean? Like it's, I know so many people going through it with their own kids too, trying to introduce foods. And we were talking last week about this medication that people can take that can kind of help with the most common food allergies so that they don't die. Obviously, you have EpiPens and things like that if you do, but those don't always work if you're having a severe reaction.
Yep.
If I was going to a place, especially Disney World, where I can only imagine what that kitchen looks like. You know what I mean? I mean, you're making a ton of food very quickly. Are you really going to believe there's no cross-contamination? Are you real? I mean, if I went to a restaurant that was smallish, okay, I could understand kind of cleaning things up and doing that sort of thing. But no, if I'm sorry, if I had a death allergy, I would definitely be making my own food. I would not in any way, shape, or form think that they're going to be able to clean the grill. Nothing's going to float over, especially nuts, like chopping nuts and doing and ice cream. And I don't know. And I don't know what it's like to have a dairy allergy, but I would never eat, especially at a place like Disney World that has that much turnover. I would just assume that there's cross-contamination.
I mean, and she's assured. No, don't worry about it, ma'am. We can.
No.
We got this.
I would want to see it made. You know what I mean? I would want to see it made. I want to see the kitchen because it's my life. Look, the woman died. The woman died, people. So yeah.
Okay, I said that was going to be the last one, but I don't want to end with death. So
okay, let's do another one.
I'll end with what's going on with leap year.
Orange
County is offering on-demand wedding ceremonies tomorrow because tomorrow is February 29th, which is Leap Day. The Orange County clerk recommends making a reservation, but walk-ins are welcome too. At the courthouse in Anaheim, Laguna Hills, and the old Orange County Courthouse in Santa Ana. They're open extra hours tomorrow to meet the demand. I guess a lot of people want to get married on Leap Day. A civil ceremony on this once every 4-year date can be performed for $28, while marriage licenses cost $61 or an additional $5 for a private license.
Any Leap Day babies or anniversaries in the chat room? I don't know anybody. I don't think I know anybody that was born on Leap Day.
I don't.
I mean, what day? Okay, here's the question. I mean, you would just celebrate your birthday on March 1st, right? Because if you're like, I'd celebrate it on February 20th. I'm like, no, because February 20th always existed. So I would celebrate my birthday on March 1st, since that's the day after the 28th, which would be when I was born. I love when people are like, I'm only 4 years old because I've only had, that many birthdays. That's really interesting. Now, would you want to have your wedding anniversary, though? I don't think I'd want to have my wedding anniversary.
I guess if you're the person that doesn't like to, maybe you want it to be only once every 4 years. You want to celebrate that. You want to get a pass for having to remember it all the time. I don't know.
But then you'd only be married. We've been married for 4 years, but you've really been married for, all those other years. So yeah, that's interesting. Leap babies. There's a bunch. I think Krispy Kreme's doing something for Leap Day. There's a bunch of things that are happening tomorrow for Leap Day because it's a leap year. And again, we'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow, but we do need to have leap days because otherwise, summer will be in December eventually and things like that. There's a method to the madness. There's no method to the madness with daylight saving time, but there is with Leap Day. So just keep
this report is sponsored by you, which means we rely on you to crowdfund the show. And that can be done by going to the website, thenickymadoroshow.com, thenickymadoroshow.com. The Patreon link lives there. The PayPal links live there. The super chats and the super stickers are open. And we have to say thank you to Chris, who threw down $1, and to the lady Beatrice, who threw down $5 with a super chat. I think it's time for lawmakers to pass the legislation to make maternity care available in these areas. It absolutely is. Yeah. So thank you to everyone who supports the show and who continues to keep us going here at the Nikki Maduro Show. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Maduro Show.
Thank you, Kim. And we'll talk about maternity care deserts. I can't imagine, honestly, living in an area in which I had to travel very far for maternity care. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But right now, I want to get an update on a story I brought you last month. Now, again, you guys know I have family in Queen Creek, which is near Gilbert in Arizona. And there's this murder case of this poor kid by the name of Preston Lord. And the weekend before Halloween, he was beaten to death. The tragedy is how long it took for any sort of investigation to lead to any sort of arrests. It seemed like parents were covering for their kids because there was tons of kids with their cell phones that were there and watched it. And then slowly more information came out in December. It was revealed that this gang by the name of the Gilbert Goons may have been tied to this or people with them. Well, yesterday, a bombshell was broken by someone connected to the alleged killer. And joining me once again is Billie Tarascio. She is an attorney, a divorce attorney, mymodernlaw.com in Arizona, has been doing an amazing job following the twists and turns of this case. Billie, thank you so much for coming back on the Nikki Maduro Show.
Hi, Nikki. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I kind of gave a brief up-to-date about the background of this case, but yesterday there was this bombshell by this woman by the name of Ashley Reynolds. Who is she? And bring us up to speed on what she disclosed to Central Arizona Republic yesterday.
Yes. So Ashley Reynolds was the executive assistant for one of the parents of the Gilbert Goons and his business partner. So there are so many characters in the story, but one of the reasons it's so fascinating is that some of the key characters are this rich family in Gilbert that's pretty high profile. And so this woman worked for that rich family, and she spoke to the Arizona Republic and disclosed to them that the minor child of this family was indeed involved in Preston Lord's murder, called his father minutes after the attack, and his father immediately began engaging in ways to cover up the fact that he was involved in the murder and blame it on someone else. And they involved their staff. And that's how she knew about it, because she said that she was enlisted to help cover up this murder.
Okay. And there's a little bit of feedback on your microphone. So maybe if you could turn it a little bit towards you so people can hear you a little bit better, because I want to get the information. Okay. So How was she actually enlisted into doing this? How did that begin? Because the first thing that went through my mind, especially when this case broke, is adults know something. So was there pressure? Was she told there would be repercussions if she didn't? What was kind of going on there, according to Ashley Reynolds?
Well, she said that immediately Travis Renner and his business partner, Adam, told her and other staff, apparently, that they were going to help clean up the crisis or deal with the crisis. And she reported that that included changing the calendar to appear as if they were out of town during the time, but also making moves pretty darn quickly to transfer assets out of Travis Renner's name. And she was in charge of reaching out to the attorney, signing the retainer agreement. She said that they were having legal strategy sessions, that Adam Kiffer, the business partner, was going to pretend to take over, but had actually no actual intention of taking over because he was dependent on Travis Renner's money to run the businesses.
So she decided to come forward because guilt?
Well, no, here's the best part. I can't, sorry. Adam Kiffer was reaching out to the Arizona Republic, asking the reporter who was reporting on the Gilbert Goons situation to look into this woman. He said that she, and God knows why, because they made allegations that this woman, who was eventually fired because she was caught, I guess, texting other staff members, and they were like, I don't know if we're doing the right thing here, you know.
Right.
The public pressure is really heating up. Anyway, she got fired, and they have now filed civil lawsuits against her, given her an NDA to sign that was case specific, and gotten a temporary restraining order alleging that she stole money from them. So I don't know why Adam Kiffer thought maybe I'll get the Republic to look at this woman who I'm claiming stole money from me. Anyway, the Republic reached out to her to say, hey, we've been contacted by these guys. You got to comment. And she's like, well, yes, I do.
Could she get in trouble for this? I mean, it does seem like she was covering up a murder. And it's not, and as you just said, it's not as if she was forthcoming with it. It was kind of like, well, now they've pissed me off. Now they're going to try and discredit my name. So now I'm going to disclose what I knew instead of doing this months ago.
Right. People have come down pretty hard on Ashley for coming forward, 4 months after this boy was murdered. She expressed that she was is a single mom, dependent on this money, dependent on this job, not, an executive assistant whose job was to say yes, and coming forward wasn't an option. That's what she said. Now, people have not responded all that favorably to her statements. Your question, could she get in trouble? Could she be arrested? No one has been arrested. Queen Creek Police Department submitted charges for 7 different named people December 28th. Not a single human has been charged. Could the people involved in the cover-up be charged for obstruction? Yes, theoretically, yes.
But somebody first would need to be arrested, I guess, for the actual crime to connect anybody else to that crime. The father of the alleged person that Ashley Reynolds is accusing for this, that she claims she knows did it. I mean, took his son to a cabin, apparently, right? To kind of hide any sort of evidence. Is there evidence of that, though?
Well, so she told the Republic that Adam and Travis, her bosses, talked about the fact that they needed to take this minor child out of town to avoid his being investigated by police, and that they needed to stay out of town at least until the injuries that he had sustained to his knuckles from beating this child to death were healed. So that is what she has said. We also, and none of this is new for those of us in the community who are paying attention, none of what she's saying is inconsistent with other reports. There was a lot of controversy because this boy was gone from school, returned to school at American Leadership Academy, and was allowed to play football in a very high-profile game, even though the allegation is that his coach knew what he was involved with. And he was then awarded player of the game, which particularly did not sit well with parents. That coach has now been removed.
Wow. I mean, it's okay. So you said again, nobody has been arrested. I also feel like I read somewhere that they were trying to, the father of this Richie Rich business or whatever, they were trying to frame another child who had a similar name to the minor child that's now being accused by Ashley Reynolds. Is that correct?
That is also what she said. So Ashley Reynolds said that their plan was to try to blame this on the other boy who has the same name. And there are indications that that other boy was also involved. Those indications are his admission to his girlfriend immediately after getting into the car at the party, and a Snapchat that he posted saying, I punched the kid, but I didn't kill him. It was that other kid.
Right. With the same name.
Right.
Okay, so now what's next? I mean, I am shocked. It's February 28th. This happened in October. This was the first murder in Queen Creek, which again is a small-ish town in Arizona, very tight-knit. I mean, it was a new development, so everyone probably knows each other as they moved into it. I mean, there has to be a level of incompetence in this investigation, I feel like.
Well, you're not alone in saying that. So Queen Creek is a new police department. It's not that murders hadn't happened. It's that it was then the county. So the county would have had jurisdiction. The department, the police department, is 2 years old. And this is the first murder that the police department has had to investigate. But the police chief is not new. He's not a brand new police officer. He brought the FBI in to help with the investigation. And the FBI apparently did help with the investigation, although we haven't heard anything about the FBI for some time. We don't know if they're still involved or what they did. We do know that Queen Creek Police Department put together a 2,000-page police report, and they turned that over to Maricopa County Attorney's Office December 28th, 2 months after his attack. And here we are sitting 4 months after the attack with no charges. We are waiting on Maricopa County Attorney's Office to bring charges.
And there's no estimated time in which they would do that, even with Ashley Reynolds' new admission.
Right. And this wasn't new. She had spoken to the police already, and none of the information that she shared was really new. People already knew this. The police already knew this. The only information that she gave that was new to me is she said that her bosses, Adam and Travis, indicated that this was some sort of initiation for the minor child.
Wow.
And that is a big deal because for a long time, one of the questions is, will these boys, these teen boys, the Gilbert Goons, be classified as a street gang? Because that comes with it longer sentencing for the same crimes. So if we're dealing with an initiation, that is definitely an indication that they may be classified as a gang.
And there have been some arrests of Gilbert Goons, just not in connection to the Preston Lord case, correct?
That's exactly right.
Right.
So after Preston's death and after the community got crazy and after the Arizona Republic reported about the Gilbert Goons, then the town of Gilbert, where I live, which is where most of these crimes have been happening, reopened cases that they had not previously investigated or made arrests for, and have since made something, I think, more than 40 arrests connected to criminal behavior by these group of teens, Gilbert Goons, for beating people, drugs, robbery. Yeah.
It's really, really sad that it's gotten to this point. It's sad that the Lord family can't have any sort of closure. I can only imagine. My last question to you, Billie, is this. I mean, given the fact that, as you've mentioned, everyone knows this, it's like the worst kept secret.
Mm-hmm.
What is the community feeling, from your estimation, about trusting each other, trusting each other as parents. Like, I can't imagine if within my school, within my community, I am surrounded by parents that would hide their children's crimes when one of our children, our community's children, have been murdered in cold blood in front of so many people.
Well, you're absolutely right. And there is a boy whose stepmother is a principal at a elementary school. He's been let off despite the fact that there are videos of him and victims testifying that he participated in beating the victim and sending threatening text messages, but he's gotten let off. So, parents whose children go to the school where the stepmom is principal, they're enraged. And Chandler School District was brought in and they've been sued. They've been sued in connection to one of these attacks. And all of the Gilbert goons and their parents have been sued. 48 of them have been named in a civil suit. The community is not in good shape. The community is showing up at council meetings, very, very unhappy with government and with schools and with police. And it's been difficult. And in my opinion, not well managed by government and police in trying to figure out how to respond to this very angry community.
Yeah, and I think there's probably was an assumption by this community that they were a good community, that they were a safe neighborhood, and it has to just shatter. Like, we're not, and I live in the Bay Area, we're not San Francisco. We're not one of these cities that can't manage crime. And then this is one of the worst crimes, because we are often talking about children or extremely young adults doing the worst crime you can commit, which is murdering one of their own.
Absolutely. Gilbert is, I think maybe number 2 in the safest cities of its town in the country. Okay. So we all believed that we lived in a crime-free place where everything was taken care of and our cops were on top of it. And then to find out, nope, there's all this crime. And I don't even think that Gilbert has a high crime rate. I think that it probably has a normal crime rate or even a low crime rate. But the fact that these crimes were not properly addressed or handled has led to shock and outrage.
Yeah. And I would say that if you can't handle a crime like this, then that just makes you wonder what kind of crimes they can handle. Billie Tarascio, find her at mymodernlaw.com. Her website is in our show notes. Thank you so much, because I'm so enthralled. I get texts and emails from my sister-in-law all the time who lives in Queen Creek. I feel the emotion. This case is nuts to me, especially given the town that you guys live in and how small it is. Thank you again, and I appreciate the update. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Yeah, it's one of those things where, and I hate to say it like this because a child's been killed, but I'm fascinated by murder cases. And I think there's this kind of Hollywood fascination by it. But then you look at the cases of this and you see that picture of Preston Lord. He's a young boy. And my heart breaks for his family. And how devastated I must feel. And that's why I mentioned that last question of, you feel like you live in the safest town ever. You feel like the people around you look out for each other. And then when the moment comes where you need your community to have your back, to watch your children, they fail you in the most spectacular way possible, because they have some money, they have some, status in the community, and they're just going to hide it because, God forbid, it happens to them and they can't buy their way out of it, which allegedly is what this father was claiming regarding his son allegedly killing Preston Lord. And while I just can't imagine, Kim, everybody knowing who did it and just be having to walk down the street and just accept it because the cops are not able to do anything yet.
It makes me think to myself, I think I'm the good guy, right?
Right.
But if it was my child that was accused of something, would I be that person who goes to dramatic, crazy, and criminal lengths to try to protect my child?
Yeah. I don't think I would be that person. I tell myself that I think, I'll do this. I'll admit this. And again, you never know till you're in the situation. I think there might be that initial reaction like, oh my God, come in the house. Like, let's talk about this. Once I found out, look, there's no way, shape, or form that if I found out my daughter or son murdered somebody,
killed someone,
that I would be able to keep that a secret. There's just no way.
You wouldn't drive to Tahoe to a special cabin to let them recover from their hand wounds.
Insane. No. And not only that, they had her change doctor backdate stuff to say like my child's gone, like out of town during the dates that the murder happened. I mean, the cover up is so awful. And and again, it's just the audacity of some people thinking that your child's life is worth more than my child's life. It's ridiculous. It makes me so mad. And so, yeah, it's sad. And I hope there is eventually justice, but it's not looking good for the Lord family.
No.
Okay. I wanted to touch totally something different, but something we've been teasing, of course, which, I will say it has to do with kids as well. And, but kids before they are born. I mentioned this earlier. I was talking with my friend in Idaho about the IVF ruling in Alabama by the Alabama Supreme Court that frozen. I roll my eyes so deeply to even say the sentence that frozen embryos are children. No. They are not children. Now, can they be turned into children? Can they grow into children? Yes.
Maybe. Actually, most of them can't. Did you know
Yes,
that?
exactly. Most of them can't.
Most of them can't. It's the same statistics for, you know how hard it is it's crazy that there's so many people in the world.
Yeah.
Because how hard it is to get pregnant. You can only do it at a certain time during the month.
Right.
Only for a certain number of days. Has to be the perfect egg. Has to be the perfect situation. Has to be, everything has to be just right.
Yep. Exactly.
And they say, what is it? You've got a normal, healthy young woman.
Right.
Has, I think it's a 28 to 30% chance.
Look at that.
Without help. And most of the time, if you do get pregnant, whatever happens to the clump of cells often will fall away before you ever knew that you were pregnant at all.
Exactly.
Same with IVF, because you can fertilize a clump of cells, but that doesn't mean it's going to take. And so it's the same where they look in the lab and most of them don't survive.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, there's so many analogies. My latest analogy, okay, because I know I've been saying if it's a frozen embryo is a child, keep them in that state because you don't have to have back talk. You don't have to feed them like Kim's kids, growing like weeds, really cheap to feed. You just have to pay the energy bill to keep the freezer really cold. But the newest analogy I came to was like on Valentine's Day, your husband comes home and just throws a packet of seeds on the table. And there's your dozen roses. I got you 100 roses and it's just a pack of seeds.
Good luck.
There you go. There you go. You know what I mean? It's the promise of roses. It's just not a freaking rose yet. And so I know so many people, Kim, I have a bunch of people that I suspected, but have come more out public with their IVF journey since this ruling. But the problem also is in some of these states like Alabama, like Idaho, where they've had these restrictions on abortions, which, different ends of the spectrum here, but still under the same umbrella of reproductive freedom. I get to make a decision about whether or not I want to bring a life into the world and how I'm getting there, how I'm able to do that. And so my friend just flippantly said, she's like, that's why so many doctors are leaving Idaho. And while intellectually I realize that, there was a report that came out a week ago. The Idaho Statesman reported this. It was data compiled by the Idaho Physician Wellbeing Action Collaborative. And it says that more than 50 Idaho obstetricians have stopped practicing in the state since a near total abortion ban took effect in August of 2022. In that same time, only 2 moved into the state. The number of obstetricians in Idaho decreased. Now, I know that Idaho is not as big as California, so I know that these numbers, we really do have to, keep that in mind. The number of obstetricians in Idaho decreased from 227 in 2022 to 176 in 2023. This collaborative was actually created to address kind of the number of doctors that are in the state. And they said the number should concern every person living in or considering a move to Idaho. Yeah. If you are thinking, and this is just honest, I'm going to move to a place where I can raise a family, where I can afford to raise a family, Idaho ain't it. Because if you get pregnant, and you want to live not necessarily in Boise, which is one of the more, obviously populated areas, but even some of the outskirts, you have to drive to get an obstetrician, let alone a good one.
What if you had an emergency?
Exactly. You want to talk about protecting life? A third of hospital obstetrics programs in Idaho are in serious jeopardy of closing. Only 22 of the 44 counties in Idaho, so half, have access to any practicing obstetricians. Think about that. Only half of the counties in Idaho have any access to a practicing obstetrician. And 85% of obstetricians and gynecologists in Idaho practice in the 7 most populous counties. That's insane. And that is the consequence of voting red.
This is happening in other states too.
Of course.
I was reading an article about Louisiana the other day. They have deserts of female reproductive care.
Yep.
Other red states as well. And so, if you're a woman, even not a woman of childbearing age, maybe you're an older woman.
Yep.
Now you start having your risks of things go up, right? So you got to go get your checkups, and you've got to make sure you get your mammograms, and you've got to do all these things. You are going to have a harder time finding a place to get care like this.
Exactly.
Because there are not women's health specialists easily available. That's right.
Look at that map. Look at that map. The blue is good. The blue is full access to maternity care. The white areas are moderate access. And then the light red is low access. The deep red is maternity care deserts.
And why would a state like California be mostly blue?
I wonder.
Because they're not going to get sued out of existence with laws clamping down on the ways they can treat their patients and save their patients' lives.
Yeah. And Lulu, you're absolutely correct. And I did want to bring this up as well. She says, there's a desert here in Northern California. I have to drive over an hour to St. Helena to get care. And if you look on the map of California, you can see.
There's a red.
There's red. There's, whites. I mean, again, it's not as if we're immune. Now, if I had to choose, I would choose California.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Hospitals are closing. And again, I think there's different reasons for all of that. But when you're thinking, it's this mentality that a lot of Americans have where I'm done living in the expensive coastal cities and coastal areas. It's too expensive, blah, blah, blah. It is. I'm not fighting you on that. But if I had to choose a state where I have my reproductive freedom, where doctors are free to practice medicine and listen to as the experts that they are, versus the government stepping in when half of those people in Washington, D.C. probably can't even explain the female reproductive system, right? Can't even. I would love to hear Mitch McConnell try to explain a woman's menstrual cycle to me. I mean, not really, because that would just be awful. But that's what I'm talking about. It's this idea that they fully understand something that they so harshly want to regulate. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Lori says obstetricians have been having a hard time getting malpractice insurance for years.
Yep.
They will not be able to get malpractice insurance, so they cannot practice there. And I get it. Well, to be fair, Randy says, some of those areas are essentially deserted. Look at the area in Nevada. Nobody lives in the middle of Nevada, but it's changing as people move to these states because of housing affordability. I'm just going to start with housing affordability because that often is one of the main reasons people leave. I'm going to move. There was just a story the other day. I was talking about it. How so many Californians, Texans, and Florida, people leave those states, and it's red and blue, and are moving to the Midwest, Wisconsin, places like that, right? Now, that is fundamentally at some point going to change the makeup of those states. There's going to be some political backlash as well, right? There's going to be this push and pull like, oh my God, I come from this state, I'm moving to your state, but I'm moving with my political views. So as these people move there, they need doctors. But if the laws in those states are restrictive, as more people move, those so-called populated deserts are going to be populated, but with medical deserts. And that's unsafe. That's unsafe. So I think you're right, Randy. Right now, in some of those areas, they may seem deserted. They're not always going to be, because we are seeing a huge change in where people choose to live. So yeah, if people want to, I'm moving to, again, Idaho is just one of the main states I feel like a lot of Californians move to. It's become very popular. There's bumper stickers and Californians aren't wanted there. No problem. I don't want to move to your back assward state. Sorry, I don't. It might be beautiful. It might be cheaper. All those sorts of things. You might like your neighborhood. But I just think that the politics steps way too into my personal life for me to ever want to live in a state like that. And it's dangerous. And it's dangerous for women. I wouldn't want my daughter living there. I wouldn't want my son living there, in all honesty. So, yep, Arad, I agree with you. California is the best place to live. It ain't perfect. Believe me. We know there's a lot of problems, but I don't have to worry about my government trying to get into my uterus. That's for sure. Okay, let's do some headlines. And then when we come back, what else? Oh, I did have a couple more food stories, so we might have time to get to that as well. Also, tomorrow night, something's happening, which is really important. We'll talk about it more tomorrow and definitely on Friday. That's coming up. That's the search for the new Oakland police chief that's been described as like a pageant, which is kind of funny. All right, click the thumbs up button to show your support for the show. And here is Kim with some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Maduro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Mitch McConnell, yes, the Senate Republican leader. Mitch McConnell, well, minority leader, I should say, will step down as GOP leader in November. He made the announcement today on the Senate floor, saying it is time for the next generation of leadership. The 82-year-old said he will be stepping down from the role after the November elections, but he will serve out the remainder of his term, which ends January of 2027.
Bye, Mitch.
Bye, Mitch. See you later. 2027, though, he'll be around for a couple of years, so maybe he'll be able to train the next up and coming.
Ugh. All right, whatever. If he's, no offense, but I mean the guy's 82, so we'll see.
We have a lot of Mitch McConnell fans out there. I don't know. Hunter Biden is accusing Republicans of pushing, distortion, and ignoring evidence. That was part of the opening statement by President Biden's son during closed-door hearing testimony today in the Republican-led impeachment inquiry into the president. Hunter says his father was never involved in any of his business ventures.
Yeah, and GOP, you're going to have to prove that he was. And it has to be beyond the fact of Joe Biden calling his own son. Give me a freaking break.
Here we go. All eyes on Super Tuesday in the 2024 primaries. Nikki Haley vowing to stay in the GOP race despite a 41-point loss to former President Trump in yesterday's Michigan primary. And nearly 900 delegates are up for grabs in 15 states and one U.S. territory on March 15th. So, Super Tuesday coming up.
I don't foresee a dramatic shift in how people vote, but it is called Super Tuesday for a reason. So we'll see how many delegates she's able to eke out. But again, at the end of next month, I think I think it's the Stormy Daniels case is starting. One of those cases I think is starting like March 25th, 28th, something like that. So it's so hard to keep them straight. But yeah, I think that's the one that's going to be starting. So if I was a Republican, like a real Republican, not just MAGA, I wouldn't seriously consider throwing my vote behind someone who might not be in jail or prison come November. That's just me, though,
Yeah. I mean, you would think that you would want somebody with some staying power, not somebody who might end up in an orange jumpsuit.
Exactly.
I don't know. Or maybe that's just dreaming on my part. A ban on gender-affirming health care for minors in Indiana is now in effect after a court ruling. The 7th Circuit Court of Appeals issued a stay that lifts a previous ban on the law. Law signed by the governor last year has been blocked following a lawsuit brought by several transgender youth, their parents, a doctor, and a health clinic as well. But the ban on gender-affirming health care for minors in Indiana is now in effect. So,
I mean, again, I just don't know where the government feels like they have a role in this. If I have a child and I've talked to their doctor, and again, gender affirming care, by the way, is not removing breasts and penises. I'm just letting you guys know gender affirming care is pap smears. Okay. It's cancer checks. That's gender affirming care. Okay. It's all sorts of things fall under the umbrella of gender affirming care. And it's just ridiculous, especially a government that believes in, quote unquote, believes in small government, that this is where they want to have a say. It's so infuriating. Oh, you're muted, sweetie.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
my bad. I was coughing and then I forgot to
okay.
unmute myself. Let's go to Vallejo.
Okay.
Valley Joe community members in Vallejo are pleading for help to protect their city. They are asking for the governor to send officers amid the police shortage there. The department only has 33 officers in the field. They're hoping to get approval next month for Solano County Sheriff's deputies to assist with patrols. Many people in Vallejo say they feel unsafe after a weekend of violence. Saturday, someone set fire inside the Target in town. The next night, a 7-Eleven was looted during a sideshow that left one man with bullet wounds and his truck on fire. No arrests have been made in either case, but clearly they need some help in law enforcement in Vallejo. Speaking of police, the new candidates for the Oakland's next top cop are being revealed a little bit early. The list was expected to be shared at tomorrow's community forum, but it came out yesterday. It includes Luis Molina, Lisa Davis, Floyd Mitchell, and Abdul Prigden. Mayor rejected the first list suggested by the police commission after LeRon Armstrong was fired as police chief last year. The forum will be open to the public and start at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall.
Now, there's with Floyd Mitchell, who's the Lubbock police chief. He actually resigned last year because they found that dispatchers in his department were accused of not answering 911 calls. This is all from KTVU. Cincinnati Assistant Police Chief Lisa Davis is on the list, as Kim mentioned. She has 30 years of service in Cincinnati, but has been passed over several times for police chief. Okay, whatever. New York City's former commissioner of the Department of Correction, Luis Molina, was criticized in a New York Times article for failing to improve conditions at city jails. And then Chief Prigden left the Department of San Leandro in September after allegations he violated department policy.
Wait, this is the best they can do?
I love it. I'm like,
is there anybody without, with that comes with a clean slate?
No, apparently not. Civil rights attorney Jim Channon told KTVU all the candidates seem to have concerning issues, but Prigden's would especially be a hard sell, saying unless he's been cleared of the charges, it's going to be difficult to see why the commission put Prigden up there when the mayor has already rejected him. So she already rejected the only California candidate, Bay Area candidate, Mayor Shane Tao has. So we'll see. I guess we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I would say that the woman, the Lisa Davis, she's been passed over. I mean, who knows why? It could be sexism. It could be but 30 years of service for the department. Right now, if that's the only criticism or you kind of demerit, I'd go with her. If I had to put my money on anybody.
If you're LeRon Armstrong and this is who they're asking to replace you, are you not annoyed? Are you not looking at it going,
I'm annoyed anyway.
But you didn't want me in the job? You're going to take these people? Okay.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Word came out yesterday that Macy's Union Square will be closing down, going away. They're selling more than 150 stores. The flagship store featured here in Union Square will stay open until the property is sold. So it looks like maybe
but
Macy's
not empty.
Owns the property, owns the building. It's been there forever.
But are they going to keep the store up and running? Please do not tell me a one city block long building is going to be empty.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's closing down. Yes.
Well, I understand it's closing down, but can we keep it open until we have a buyer that's going to move immediately in and do something with it? I mean,
we don't know what they're going to do with it, but we can say that it won't be a Macy's anymore, and that Macy's won't close the store until the whole building sells.
Okay.
Yeah. Board of Supervisor Aaron Peskin says that could take years, meaning there will likely be a holiday shopping season and a great tree in December. This location has 400 employees that would be impacted. The company blames sluggish sales and hopes to fend off a pending takeover bid. You know, this Union Square Macy's, it is Union Square.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you go,
This is right in front of the, the area where the giant Christmas tree goes, where
But does it have to say Macy's on it? I mean, does it have to say Macy's, or can it be another bustling business?
Well, it could be another bustling business, but what is there another department store that would have?
It doesn't have to be a department store. It could be something else.
What I'm saying is, I mean, as a member of the Bay Area, from San Jose to the North Bay, right? When you go into San Francisco for the day shopping, this is where you go. You go to Union Square, you go to Macy's. A lot of people go for holidays to window shop and look in the windows, to take in the decorations and the sights. This is what I think is a storied part, of the history and the legacy of San Francisco. This is something that's kind of woven into the fabric.
Yeah.
Of what we all know when we go to the city. This is a big part of the city. So to see it, have to be sold off and closed down is a heartbreaker. And so what's going to go in there? An AI company?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, I was talking yesterday when this news broke. Remember, I was saying you have to go to these businesses. Now, walking past Macy's to go look at the lit up Christmas tree is one thing. Walking into Macy's and significantly buying products is completely different. Obviously, Macy's is losing money. Obviously, rent in San Francisco is expensive. So what I was saying is turn this not into just one store, but similar to something I was talking about yesterday with Valley Fair. A bunch of different stores, restaurants, work with top name chefs that want to be in San Francisco. See all those friggin' windows, do cooking shows, make something happen, thinking outside the box. But this idea that people want to go to one gigantic Macy's is not financially feasible anymore. It's just not. And so you have to bring in both luxury and kind of middle line stores, bring in some sort of event, bring in a bowling alley. Someone mentioned pickleball courts. People hate the sound of pickleball courts. Do it in there and soundproof the damn friggin' courts. Something like that you can't get anywhere else. You have to think outside the box. One giant Macy's, while iconic, isn't bringing in the dough.
I would have thought they would have kept Macy's New York, Macy's San Francisco, right? Two flagship stores, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I like the idea of being able to wander upstairs and look at couches.
Yeah.
And then go to housewares and look at the sparkle of the Waterford crystal, and then walk down to the purse section, or wander through the makeup area and smell all the smells, whatever it is. I guess it's a thing of the past now.
Well, yeah, because again, you can wander, but are you whipping out that wallet, woman? You know what I mean?
I know.
You have to buy things. Staring at something just because it's iconic and it's always been there is nice and dandy. But you have to buy things. I mean, it used to be, I'm going to do my Christmas shopping at Macy's in San Francisco. I'm going to go in that building. I'm going to go to all those places you just mentioned, Kim, and I'm going to get it done. Now people might walk through and look and window shop, but then they hop on their phone and they buy exactly what they want, which will be delivered exactly to their front door. And it's changed. And it's not just emblematic of the myriad of problems that San Francisco has, but it has to do with the fact that it's expensive to do business nowadays. Square footage is expensive as well. And if it's not bringing in the dough and just bringing in eyeballs, that doesn't make business sense. It just doesn't.
And maybe if they do own the building, they're looking at this prime real estate in San Francisco and thinking, not only are we not making enough money, but look at what we're sitting on here.
Yes.
What we could sell. And it's just the end of an era, and it just makes me sad.
It does make me sad. I mean, I understand change is hard. A drive-in movies. Somebody mentioned what if you made it like an indoor water park? Now, that's kind of a cool idea. I'm not saying it is going to be that, but can you imagine turning this into what do they call the Great? I've never been to it, but like a Great Wolf Lodge, which is an indoor water park. Can you imagine That would draw tourism. San Francisco's cold and dreary, but warm water slides.
Are you taking your kids to San Francisco? Look what's around that, though. You got homeless people. You got crime. I mean,
obviously, that needs to be addressed no matter what. At least
at a Wolf Lodge, there's nothing you can steal, right?
That's true. I mean, I just feel like you can do something with this gigantic building if you don't think that I need to have one anchor tenant like Macy's. People don't shop that way anymore. They just don't. So make it something else. Use those windows for good. I'm telling you, some sort of, I was thinking of like TRL. Remember MTV's Total Request Live in New York Times Square? They'd have the big windows and people would be out on the streets looking up and they'd see celebrities up there. You got to start thinking about what's going to draw eyeballs and people, and they'll spend money. That's the most important thing. So,
problem at Gilroy Gardens. Did
you
hear about this one?
No.
Yeah. They were the latest victim of a cyber attack.
Oh, no.
Gilroy Gardens theme park says it was hit by a ransomware virus just over 2 weeks ago, locked out all on-site servers and machines, including the ticketing system, which stores customer names and credit card information. At this point, the FBI doesn't believe any data was stolen, and there's no word if officials actually paid a ransom at Gilroy Gardens. Lastly, there's a story about Drew Barrymore. Hold on, I have to cough.
I love Drew Barrymore. Although yesterday I was watching this video, she was with Christina Aguilera.
This is what I'm going to talk about.
Oh, okay, go. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a recent episode. Drew Barrymore and singer Christina Aguilera talked about communicating with their young children.
Oh, okay.
Aguilera said while she's very open with her kids, she tries to find age-appropriate strategies to talk with them about topics that may be a little sensitive, right?
Okay.
And Barrymore then shared this with her. She said, "My daughter wants to wear a crop top." And she said, "I'll say no." And she'll say, "Mom, you were on the cover of Playboy." It's like, what do you say to that, right? Barrymore has 2 daughters, Olive, who's 11, and Frankie, who's 9. She posed for the cover of Playboy in 1995.
Wow. I mean, Drew Barrymore has quite the controversial upbringing. She started when she was very, very young. She started doing drugs and alcohol very, very young. She's been open with it totally. So it must be hard. But I would be like, you know my story. You know the struggles that I had. I don't want that for you. I don't think a crop top's going to do that. But that's interesting. You know, what's funny is I didn't hear that part of the story. I just saw this video with Drew Barrymore and Christina Aguilera. I love Drew Barrymore, but she wears like these gigantic suits. I don't know if you guys have seen it. And it was just kind of like, you see Christina Aguilera, she's wearing like a fitted outfit. And then Drew Barrymore is literally wearing a suit that could fit somebody that's 300 pounds. It was so big. And I was like, but then as you bring up crop tops, maybe that's why she's like, look, just cover your body. We're good to go. I might have done Playboy when I was younger, but we're going on the opposite side right now. But I love Drew Barrymore.
Well,
She's
Christina Aguilera also has a daughter who's 9. And she said her daughter wants crop tops too. And she said, "I knew it was coming the day I wore chaps."
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know. Do you think a mom who has I don't want to say a racy past, but who is, maybe known for appearing on the cover of Playboy or has, appeared in a movie scantily clad or whatever it may be, has a leg to stand on when their kid comes around and says, "I'd like this string bikini, please," or "I'd like these short shorts," or what have you.
I do.
Yeah.
I think that I'm your mother, and what I say goes. And there needs to be a level of, now you guys know how I feel about clothing, and you have to deal with the repercussions of what you wear. Obviously, a string bikini, even on my 15-year-old daughter, is a hell to the no. Yeah. But at the same time, I would look at my daughter and be like, it was a different time. I made my own decision, and this is what my mom allowed, and this is what I'm allowing. And that's it. This is not a democracy. It is not a democracy. You can express whatever opinion you want to. I will listen to you and respect the fact that you can have an opinion. But then, at some point, what the parent says goes. When you lose that, then I mean, it's really hard to get it back. If your kids don't respect your opinion and don't listen to you, and I mean, it's very normal for even tween girls to want to push the envelope with what they're wearing because their bodies are developing and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I have the opposite problem. I mean, my daughter doesn't steal my clothes. Not that I'm wearing like scantily clad things, but she lives in my husband's clothes. Baggy pants, sweatpants, big shirts. I'm like, knock yourself out. There you go. So,
well, then the whole style is the dad pants, dad jeans.
She literally, my husband is not small. My daughter is tiny, tiny, tiny. She wore my husband's jeans. And I was like, how are you keeping she had a shoelace.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
To keep the pants up. I mean, it looked good as long as she didn't lift up her shirt to show how she was keeping them up. But yeah, baggies in. It's the 90s all over again. God. I know.
Well, if I'm Drew Barrymore, I'm saying, listen, that Playboy happened when I was a grown-up, right? A legal adult.
Yeah.
You are 11 years old. So there's a big difference between when you're 21 or when you're 24 and you want to do something like that, then that's your choice. But until then, the crop top stays off. Yeah. Or what have you.
Whatever the rule is, that's the conversation that you have, and you're the mom, and that's just it. Sorry. That's it.
Yeah. Anyway, this report is sponsored by you. And that means that we rely on you to help us fund this amazing Nikki Maduro show that we love so much. TheNikkiMaduroShow.com is the website where you can find the Patreon and the PayPal links. It's TheNikkiMaduroShow.com. Also, the super chats and the super stickers are open. Yeah, Patreon and PayPal on the website. And they take less of a cut, I think. And here on YouTube, super chat, super stickers are
Google
open
takes
as well.
their cut no matter what. Yeah,
I know. Thank you for all the ways that you guys support the show, and even for just being here and spending your morning with us as well.
Exactly.
I'm Kim McAllister. You got it on the Nikki Maduro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right, we have one more story I wanted to do, and I didn't squeeze it in yesterday, and I was upset about it. And it's kind of, again, similar to the conversation we were having about Macy's and how people's shopping has changed and how they do it. And you said, what, 400 people at Macy's work at the Macy's in San Francisco, they lose their
that's
job.
Just at the Union Square location.
Exactly. But this, when I see headlines, and this actually came out, a week ago, UberEats is launching robot deliveries. Now, it's starting in Japan, which I feel like, I don't know why I've never been to Japan. I just feel like stereotypically they're a lot more automated, right? They have like the toilets that have 50 options and stuff like that.
They're not afraid of technology. They're
exactly.
Like, bring it.
But what I am saying is they are phasing out human beings. So Uber Eats customers in Japan can soon have an autonomous robot deliver their food on the streets of Tokyo. So it's robotics firm Cartkin and Japanese industrial titan Mitsubishi Electric. They launched the autonomous sidewalk robots to begin delivering orders in parts of Tokyo beginning next month. This is the first international market to have autonomous delivery available on the Uber Eats platform. Do you think this can come here? Would you? And I know that we've had something like this. Like we've had like these robots that like, and it's obviously, kind of a trial period and they're just trying technology and stuff like that. Do you think something like this can work in the United States? I feel like this is the snarky part of me. Someone's going to steal the robot. Someone's going to break up with the robot and steal your food. Somebody's going to, I feel like Japan is one market where, of course, robots and, it just seems to work. I still get creeped out by the robot at San Jose International Airport that's supposed to help you if you're lost. I know I don't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole. Jim says Japan has a very low crime rate. I don't think that would go over well here in the United States. I agree.
Do we want it to, though? Do we want these jobs to be taken away?
Exactly. That's the main question, too. They're phasing out people from these low... I'm not going to say it's a low effort job because I do think delivery driving is a pain in the butt job. It's hard work, working all kinds of hours and what have you. But they're getting us used to being served by robots. There was the story about self-checkout. Apparently it's on the decline, right? People are giving up the self-checkouts, or they're making like restrictive rules. Before it was no alcohol, and now it's like 10 items or less. They don't want you bringing a gigantic cart into self-checkout, which I'm fine with. John says robots won't steal your food. Twice I ordered fried chicken and it got delivered a piece short. But since they started taping the bag, it hasn't happened. That's interesting. I don't deliver food, but I can only imagine like if okay, I'm not a delivery person, but I can imagine that if my delivery guy picked up my McDonald's and it wasn't taped shut, he ate one of my French fries. I would just say, I just would believe that they ate one of my French fries. They reached into my bag and took one. I would believe that. Jim says Contra Costa had the remote robot deliver free food to poor and elders. People keep stealing the robots. I told you. So I'm not quite sure if this would work. Great point, Eric. In light of what happened to the self-driving car, where it was set on fire, these robots would be targets in the United States. Yeah, I just feel like I don't want humans to lose jobs because a robot can do it 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
They don't need medical insurance. They don't need workman's comp. It's obviously, if you could have a robot do it, there's no, you don't have to treat them well. You can cuss them out if you're in a bad mood. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a person. Eric said, I'm not averse to robots delivering me food, but I want universal basic income so that people aren't impoverished because of it. Yeah. Well, where's the money going to come? Where's the income going to come if everybody hires robots? Right? I mean, is the government just going to, I don't know. It's a very kind of dystopian type of a world we would live in if robots did all the work and humans got paid by the government to afford the goods that the robots make. Yeah, it's a weird kind of world.
Yeah.
John says eventually humans won't have to do menial tasks like driving or manual labor. By then, humans won't need to work. I don't think idle hands are a good thing for human beings. We need purpose in life.
Yeah.
I mean, you can volunteer. You can, you could do stuff like that. But I do feel
volunteer to do what if the robots have it covered?
I don't
know.
To
like hand out food at a food bank, to make food in the kitchen.
I don't know. There's robots that can do that too. Have you seen the robot that like chops everything up and like why are we creating things that are making us obsolete?
You chop, I'll just sit here and hang out and watch you. I'll supervise.
Yeah, I really, really don't. Unless it's, and again, then it goes back to the trades, right? Even though there's 3D printed houses and things like that, there are things that, at least at this point, we're not creating robots to do. But, and Grady, I'm not saying work is a purpose in life, but people need a purpose in life. And oftentimes it's something to do. So while let's just say I love, not that I do, hiking, or I love to paint, or I love to do, pottery, that's great. But at some point, not that work is a struggle, but it's something to go to contrast with like leisure. Does that make sense? It's like the dark and the light. You need to work physically, I feel like, or mentally, whatever your job happens to entail, so that you can enjoy the leisure time. If it's all leisure time,
you're like a permanent vacation.
Then you're in Wall-E. You know what I mean? Then I got my VR mask on and I'm just getting fat.
Well, then you're just sucked out of reality and living in somebody else's created world. What I wonder is, if we don't have to work, where are we going to get the money for the permanent vacation?
Yeah.
Where are we going to get the money to pay for the streaming services that we're going to watch all day?
Do we need money then? I mean, because if the robots are farming the food and growing the food and cooking the food and the robot is doing the cruise ship, and if robots are doing everything, then we just exist. And I just feel we need more in life. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying a job that we hate. Maybe it's something that we like, but it just seems like we need to figure that out before we start making ourselves obsolete. Does that make sense?
Let me just say this. Say money was no object.
Right.
Like, say you won the lottery tomorrow, right? We always say, oh, well, that would be my last day at the job.
Yeah.
Well, really? Because what are you going to do? Are you going to sit on your rear end?
No, I guess
No, you're going to go out in the world and spend the money and be on the permanent vacation.
Well, yeah, but I think that at some point, I feel like at some point, then you kind of like, you start a nonprofit. Like, I feel like even rich people create work for themselves because Hawaii, even though it's gorgeous, sitting on the beach has to get old at some point. It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it just becomes, it's not special anymore because then vacation's not special. So then you create something that you have to do, and hopefully you love it because you're rich and you don't have to do things you hate anymore.
I would imagine whether you're loaded and just won the
Right.
lottery, or whether robots take over the world and you don't have to work because none of us have to work.
Right.
There's still some type of pull or draw
Yeah.
to give something back to the world, to leave your mark on the world, right? To
A
be
desire to do that,
giving
right?
member of society, to be remembered for, well, what did she leave behind?
We got to pee on the tree. You know, we got to scratch in our name on the table. We need to leave our mark. And how is it? Oh, she laid on the beach really well.
Right.
I mean,
she read a lot of books, saw a lot of movies, watched a lot of Netflix.
Exactly. We need a little bit more. All right. Well, go out and do something you love today, hopefully. But money does make the world go round. So please, you guys, we want to continue doing the show, and to do it, we need to be crowdfunded. And to do that, just go to thenickymadoroshow.com, sign up for our Patreon, donate to our PayPal as well. Go to paypal.com, hit the send button, and put in thenickymadoroshow.com. The Nikki Maduro Show, the Nikki Maduro Show at gmail.com is the email address. And the PayPal can be found at thenickymadoroshow.com. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, a fun show. Thanks everyone for being here. Stay here for the Mark Thompson Show and the After Party Live. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.